What would be your wish list, top 3 wishes for the new owners of F1?
Equal engines for everyone.
It seems that Fernando Alonso's wish from a couple of years ago might become a reality, as FIA will convene next week to discuss a potential engine equalisation, which will see a more equal grid rather than what we had in the past 10 years, with the exception of 2021. However, you might think that this won't bode well with the teams up there on the standings, since it will in a way weaken them, but not all is as it seems at first look. So join us as we delve deeper into this new regulation that might change the sport entirely. In the 2023 season, Red Bull's stock dominance has overshadowed its competition with an unparalleled car. Winning every race this year, they currently dominate the Constructors' Championship with a whopping 452 points, outpacing second place Mercedes by a margin of 229 points, and the disparity has led other teams to scramble in their efforts to close the gap and challenge Red Bull's supremacy. However, impending regulatory changes might soon be implemented to create a more balanced playing field in F1. As reported by Autosport, insider sources indicate that an upcoming F1 Commission meeting at the Belgian Grand Prix will address the issue of engine equalisation. This matter was first raised by Alpine, who conveyed to the FIA their struggle with a Renault engine that lags behind those of their rivals, and subsequent to this disclosure, the FIA undertook an assessment of the performance of various other power units currently in use, eventually deciding to table it for further discussion. Now, information disclosed by an Autosport insider indicates that the evaluation established that Alpine's Renault engine was performing at a deficit of between 20 to 33 horsepower when compared to competitors. However, current regulations freeze engine alterations until 2025, preventing Renault from making significant adjustments to boost performance and reduce the disparity. Now, under existing FIA rules, only limited modifications can be made to power units, primarily for the purpose of addressing reliability or safety issues, making minor incidental changes, or achieving cost savings. Yet, if the data indeed suggest a performance disadvantage for Alpine, it might provide the impetus for new regulations aimed at balancing the competition. While not confirming any figures, Alpine team principal Otmar Safnauer has admitted that the French manufacturer is adrift of the opposition, which is hampering its competitive fortunes. All the teams do the same analysis, and the FIA does its analysis, he said when asked about how his engine stacked up against the opposition. We're significantly down. In the event of a decision to further investigate and rectify these disparities, it remains uncertain what alterations Renault might be able to make to their engine and the potential ramifications for the rest of the competitors. Just a couple of weeks ago, Mercedes driver Lewis Hamilton spoke out about how the FIA needed to take action to stop periods of domination in the sport. In my 17 years of being here, even before I got here, you would see periods of dominance, and it continues to happen. I was very fortunate to have one of those periods, and Max is having one now. With the way it's going, it will continue to happen over and over again, and I don't think we need that in the sport. Max Verstappen disagreed with his statement and spoke out. We weren't talking about that when he was winning his championships, right? So I don't think we should now. That's how Formula 1 works. When you have a competitive car, it's great, but you also have to look ahead to the year next. The opinions around the paddock are varied, and until updates come out from the F1 Commission meeting, engine equalisation is still in the air. As well as touching on engines, tyre blankets and changes to the sprint race format are also to be discussed at this meeting. Now, those of you who follow F1 for a while now will remember that Formula 1 actually has previously adopted engine equalisation measures, as was the case during the V8 era in 2007. This was done to level the playing field after certain manufacturers capitalised on reliability changes to enhance their performance, thereby gaining an advantage. However, leading up to the F1 engine freeze that was implemented in 2022, it was decided that there would be no stipulations in the regulations to allow for engine equalisation. This decision was based on the belief that the performance levels among teams were already relatively even. If the F1 Commission agrees in its upcoming meeting that the matter of engine equalisation requires further consideration, the exact methodology for achieving this remains uncertain. It's not guaranteed that Renault will be simply permitted to freely enhance their engine. In 2009, during a formal investigation by the FIA into potential engine performance discrepancies, the governing body suggested that any equalization measures would likely involve curbing the performance of the top power units. Following a meeting of the FIA's World Motorsport Council in September of that year, a statement was released saying, "If there is indeed a difference in engine performance in F1, and if teams wish to address this disparity, they may be allowed to do so by curbing the performance of the more powerful engines. However, no engine upgrades will be permitted." Ultimately, no consensus was reached regarding measures to equalize performance, and the issue gradually faded from the agenda. In recent years, there have been numerous calls for equalization of the turbo hybrids, particularly during periods when Mercedes was leading or when Renault was lagging behind. However, these appeals did not elicit any action from the FIA. Christian Horner, however, backs this idea, as he says Formula One teams need to do the sensible thing and back a push for engine equalization if major performance disparities have opened up. He thinks that if the FIA can show that there is disparity between the engines, then it's only right that moves are made to put everyone on a level playing field. It's about seeing what the deficits are. The FIA have all of the data, and they should present exactly what the differences are. I think that would be fascinating for everybody to see, and I think if there is a deficit under homologation, then it's something that we should be sensible about. Otherwise, you're locked in for 2 years. I wouldn't be averse to a sensible discussion. Safnauer has welcomed Horner's stance, especially because the engines were frozen from 2022 to 2025 as a means of helping Red Bull continue to use Honda engines in the wake of the Japanese manufacturer's withdrawal from F1. I'm glad Christian said that, because if you look back, the reason the engines were frozen was because Honda was pulling out at that time and Red Bull didn't have an engine department to continue developing, he explained. The reason we all agreed was for the benefit of Red Bull, so it's nice that Christian recognizes that. And at the time of the arrangement, there was also an agreement among the engine manufacturers that if anybody fell out by 1%, then there would be good faith discussions to bring that parity back. Well, there might be a reason for Red Bull backing the change, since equal engines for everyone would bring them in line with the rest of the team, and with them being so far ahead, you'd think they'd be against this sort of change. Red Bull's partnership with Ford, while indicative of forward thinking and investment, may result in a power unit that's less competitive. This is possibly a strategic move to lay the foundation for future negotiations or rule changes, demonstrating Horner's political savvy. I disagree with the concept of capping engine output, because if that's the direction, a single engine supplier might be more efficient. Another fact is that Red Bull has always had strong aerodynamics. Implementing this change would practically guarantee their future success, not to mention the fact that they have a generational talent in Max Verstappen. Thoughts about this are separated, at least among the fans. Some people think it should happen to equal the playing field, while most think that it's a big waste of time, because eventually it would help Red Bull, while undermining the work Mercedes and Ferrari are doing, because it looks like they're ahead of Red Bull in terms of engine development for 2026. We'll see what will come out of the engine equalization talks. The freeze on engine development remains in effect until then, with only modifications related to reliability, safety, or cost saving allowed, in addition to minor changes that have little impact on performance. Despite these rules being in place since 2022, the FIA is believed to acknowledge that performance disparities have emerged among engine manufacturers. However, this issue could become a significant talking point for the 2023 season and beyond. Any move towards equalization could provide a considerable advantage or disadvantage to a team, potentially going against F1's ethos of merit-based competition. So what do you guys think? Should this change be implemented, equalizing all engines? We'd like to hear your thoughts about it in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.